Ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of people who cannot publicly state that they appreciate, they respect, they admire, and they defend and support President Trump's policies. They can't say that because they're historically Democrat, like the AFL-CIO. We'll get to President Trump's latest comments on Richard Trumka, the head of the AFL-CIO, but this is from March 10th, 2015. AFL-CIO head on Obama's trade push. We are going all out to oppose it. President Trump opposed the Trans-Pacific Partnership. He was, I believe, one of the only Republicans, because most Republicans and establishment Democrats, including Hillary Clinton, supported the Trans-Pacific Partnership. President Obama supported the Trans-Pacific Partnership. That's what this article is about. The head of the nation's largest labor organization, so this is AFL-CIO head on Obama's trade push. We are going all out to oppose it. March 10th, 2015. He got a president who opposed it. President Trump's policies are addressing the $400 billion trade imbalance with China and every other issue regarding that imbalance. But let's get back to this article. The head of the nation's largest, this is, by the way, an article written during President Obama's administration. The head of the nation's largest labor organization on Tuesday slammed President Obama's trade push and vowed to block efforts in Congress to help the administration finalize a major free trade pact in Asia Pacific. We are going all out to oppose it, AFL-CIO President Richard L. Trumka told reporters about bipartisan talks on Capitol Hill over a bill to grant the administration, quote, fast-tracked authority to complete the 12-nation Trans-Pacific Partnership deal. Quote, this will trump any debate out there. This is hilarious. So he writes, this will trump any debate. Foreshadowing. Trumka said, this is such a dramatic impact on the standard of living of lowering wages and a loss of jobs. This will have a major impact. And we will not forget this vote for a long time. He was vehemently against the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So was President Trump. He was vehemently against China's unfair trade practices. So is President Trump. If you look at the AFL-CIO, the tariffs are a short-term issue. They're a short-term deal. How are you going to negotiate with China when they're going to be the number one economy by far in 2050? India will be number 2. The U.S. will be number 3. So that's the issue here. The opposition from organized labor is not expected. Of course, the Democratic president. But the AFL-CIO stepped-up campaign against the critical moment in the Obama administration effort to shore up enough Democratic votes. So here you have, though the AFL-CIO, eventually it did take a position which was opposed to the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and we can get, we'll get to taking action to challenge Communist China's unfair trade practices. This was in 2004. We'll get to that in a second. But then they write, TPP withdrawal, a good first step towards building trade policies that benefit working people. So they actually supported President Trump's decision. Now, you wouldn't know this. And the reason I'm bringing up the Trans-Pacific Partnership is that this was an agreement. This was an agreement signed or developed by Hillary Clinton, by President Obama's administration and supported by Hillary Clinton. By one estimate, 300,000 to 400,000 jobs in the Midwest. But you could look at Fox. AFL-CIO head Richard Trumka explains why labor unions hate Obama's trade deal. This is Vox. Richard Trumka truly hates the Trans-Pacific Partnership. One, it fails to address currency manipulation. Currency manipulation is exactly what President Trump was talking about. Currency manipulation has or will cost us between 2.3 million and 5.8 million jobs. China leads that group. 20 countries have been determined to have manipulated their currency. So all the benefits they claim we get from the TPP, even if you assume every one of those benefits is right, could be wiped out the next day by a country manipulating its currency. Okay, 2, it has investor-state dispute settlement secret tribunals that are only available to foreign investors, and it thus encourages people to send jobs and money offshore. So there you go. You have this issue, ladies and gentlemen. 2, it has, okay, so this is the interesting part, because think about this. People invested here in the past because we had a safe, defined system and have a rule of law. If they can now get that in Vietnam because ISDS, they will send their money to Vietnam and send their products back here. The reason why countries would develop a rule of law is because of the pressure of non-investment. This eliminates that pressure, so it would slow down the migration of these countries to a real rule of law. So, investor-state dispute settlement secret tribunals that are only available to foreign investors. So you could litigate a dispute in secret. Okay? Same with environmental standards. It also fails to help create jobs here because it doesn't have a strong rules of origin. So that's the Trans-Pacific Partnership. President Trump opposed that. Then you have AFL CIO trade complaint against China's labor practices. This is 2006, so it spans beyond President Obama. This is also President Bush. This is 2006. New York Times, AFL-CIO files a trade complaint against China's labor practices. The AFL-CIO filed a trade complaint on Thursday asking President Bush to penalize China, asserting that it violates workers' rights by suppressing strikes, barring independent unions, and letting factories ignore law on minimum wage and child labor. The complaint says, repression of workers' rights is enabled to push down labor costs by at least 47%, undercutting American companies and causing the loss of more than 400,000 factory jobs in the United States. Okay, so this is the AFL-CIO. Quote, the Chinese workforce is so large and its labor repression is so severe that it's dragging down standards for the entire world economy. This is in addition to dumping steel, in addition to currency manipulation. So the issue here is that you have a president who's finally addressing these problems. President Trump is finally addressing these problems. Bush didn't address the problems. President Obama didn't. And, you have a situation, ladies and gentlemen, where here, Trump, labor union chief, likes what we're doing until the cameras are on. So President Trump tweeted Monday that labor union head Richard Trumka likes its trade policies, but that he won't say so publicly. Just watched AFL-CIO Richard Trumka on Fox News and thought to myself how different he is on TV than when he is with me at the White House. Likes what we're doing until the cameras go on. It's true. It's true. That's exactly what's taking place, ladies and gentlemen. Exactly what's taking place. And this is why the Democratic Party can't win long term. Clinton's going to run again, but what's going to take place is even if the AFL-CIO head supports Clinton, the actual policies, he will not have supported the Trans-Pacific Partnership. She would not have engaged in tariffs with China. You need tariffs with China because that's the only leverage you have over an economy that's far superior, far greater, and has greater potential than us or anyone else. 2050. If you look at China 2050, the economy, China aims to become, So the world in 2050, this is a PwC. 20% of the world GDP. China's projected share of the world's GDP is 20% by 2050. Okay? The U.S. could be down to third place in the global GDP rankings The EU 27 share of world GDP could fall below 10%. So China will have a far greater economy than the EU. I believe it already does. But if you look at, let's see here. As a result, 6 of the 7 largest economies in the world are expected to be emerging economies in 2050, led by China, India, the US, and Indonesia. 4th. Okay? Now, the UK could be down to 10th place by 2050. It'll probably be out of the top 10. France out of the top 10. And Italy out of the top 20. So how does it not behoove labor unions in the United States of America and everywhere to address China's economy now, because it's a superpower. It's already a superpower. It's going to be even more of a superpower. It's going to be even more of a grandiose, monumental force. What are you going to do? The Trans-Pacific Partnership did not address. Well, you just listen to the AFL-CIO. The TPP didn't address the unfair trade practices, currency manipulation, everything else. It was just another way to circumvent business from China to other countries, but that doesn't stop China. You're not intimidating a global powerhouse in Asia who will be the number one economy in 2050 by going to other economies in its region. That's what the Trans-Pacific Partnership essentially was. So you have a situation where President Trump the CEOs of the steel industry begged Trump to impose tariffs. Okay? Fox Business, steelmakers hit record profits under Trump tariffs. January 29, 2019. Okay, so our steel industry under President Obama and Bush it wasn't about to shut down, but it was suffering tremendously. You have a situation also, ladies and gentlemen, where Democrats are always going to take the slowest, most methodical. It's not methodical. They're going to take an approach to trade and everything else that doesn't rock the boat. Democrats, media, they don't want to rock the boat. They can't rock the boat because that's not their brand. Their brand is not, overturning the apple cart, addressing China's unfair trade practices. And I don't blame China at all. They're a powerhouse. And we have a $400 billion trade deficit for a reason. They're an economic powerhouse. They get to manipulate their currency. They get to dump steel. They get to engage in unfair trade practices. And they don't get called on it because they're so big. In a sense, the economy is too big to fail to be called on right now. But President Trump simply says, look, you know what? We're going to address this now as opposed to later. We're going to ensure that future generations are on somewhat of an even playing field with China. Because if the Democratic Party was in power right now, you would never get any of this addressed. And the AFL-CIO, there would be a Trans-Pacific Partnership right now, and between 300,000 to 400,000 jobs would have been, by one estimate, would have been taken out of the Midwest, of the Rust Belt. So it's interesting how, because of politics, in this case, it's not just politics make strange bedfellows. It's unions actually benefit from Trump, but because they're so beholden to Democrats, they can't say, well, the AFL-CIO can't overtly say, okay, you know what? this is a good thing. We're going to thank Trump on this. Trump's steel CEO, steel industry, tariffs, China. Let's just see real quick. So, U.S. steel stock surge. So it's really hilarious too, because you have steel CEOs on Fox Business talking about how happy they were. You had steel CEOs, you had the AFL CIO, all throughout Bush and Obama's administration talking about how something had to be done because the steel industry was taken advantage of, and our steel industry was in peril. And Trump does something, and it's a big problem. It's like, look, tariffs are a short-term negotiating tactic. You negotiate now because China is going to be too big in the future. Give me your thoughts below. I will have numerous segments on H.A. Goodman's other channel a bit later. Check out H.A. Goodman's other channel below. Thank you so very, very much.